Australia, in the decades after World War II, was a safe and happy place, especially on the beach in summertime. But in the mid-1960s, two terrible events, one in New South Wales and the other in South Australia, brought that era to an end. The murders at Wanda were a frightening sign that the era of innocence in Australia, an era of safe streets and unlocked doors, was coming to an end. The brutal murders, known simply to police investigators as Wanda. The main Sydney police switchboard jammed with calls. Two 15-year-old girls have been savagely murdered in sandhills at Wanda Beach, south of the city. A record-breaking cash reward is offered in a desperate effort to find the killer. Hundreds of calls an hour are coming in, and overworked detectives struggle to follow every lead. The sheer volume of information and the workload facing detectives make this the biggest murder investigation in Australian history. But despite all the leads they've received, they continue to look for a silent witness who might have vital information. 7 years earlier, in 1958, Mary Ann Schmidt arrives in Australia with her parents, Elizabeth and Helmut, and 5 brothers and sisters. The family is a small part of the great wave of war-weary Germans who've taken up the Australian government's offer of a new life. After a few years living in migrant camps, they move to a typical suburban home in Brush Road Ryde in Sydney's inner northwest. But soon after, tragedy strikes when Mary Ann's father falls ill and dies. Her mother, Elizabeth, poor and barely able to speak English, struggles to support and care for her 6 children on the meagre welfare payments of the time. Although many of the Brush Road neighbours make little effort to get to know the Schmidt family, Mary Ann makes friends with 𝗬𝗘𝗔𝗥𝗦, a girl of her own age who lives with her grandparents next door. The two girls spend a lot of time together. They're normal teenagers, finishing high school with plans and dreams for the future. Like millions of Australian teenagers, in the summer of 1964-65, Mary Ann Schmidt and 𝗬𝗘𝗔𝗥𝗦 worship the surf culture and idolise the new pop music bands. Both are quiet and shy. They have no boyfriends, although that doesn't stop them writing in their diaries about the boys they meet, the sun, surf, and endless summer of life at the beach. In summertime, the Schmidt family and many others like them would head for Cronulla Beach to escape the stifling heat of Sydney's sprawling western and southern suburbs.
Cronulla Beach was important because it was accessible by train.
Shortly before 8:30 a.m. on January 11th, 1965, the fatal excursion begins. The girls leave home with the little ones. They change trains at Redfern, on the edge of the city centre.
In reconstructing the final movements of the children, Trixie Schmidt told police that the girls were seen talking to a 15-year-old boy on the train to Redfern. The boy hopped off at Redfern while the rest of the family caught the adjoining train to Cronulla.
The children arrive at Cronulla station and walk down towards the beach. The Schmidt children have some sandwiches and drinks in a beach bag with their towels. 𝗬𝗘𝗔𝗥𝗦 had no food, but had a thermos of cold drink in a beach bag along with her towel, a plastic purse containing a £1 note, a pair of sunglasses and a transistor radio. Somewhere on the way, she spends part of the money, possibly on some food. The 6 of them walk through to the beach, where they settle down and play, and later eat their lunch. 7-year-old Wolfgang watches Christine and Mary Ann chatting to a youth who's carrying a knife in a holster and is using a spear to catch crabs in rock crevices. Then, the fateful decision is made to go for a walk.
In the early afternoon, the girls decided to take the younger children on a walk to Wanda Beach into the sandhills. This is a distance of some kilometres, and it was about 400 metres past the Wanda Beach Surf Club that the children complained that the wind was whipping their legs and it was very uncomfortable that they were tied.
May everyone sit down here?
It's about 1 p.m. The girls leave the children sheltering from the wind behind a dune while they go off walking alone in the sandhills. Although the weather had turned blustery, there was still a number of people in the sandhills and on the beach. One of those was a local man, 𝗬𝗘𝗥𝗦, who was walking with his young son. 𝗬𝗘𝗥𝗦, who prefers that his face not be shown, saw the girls walking over the sandhills.
Well, what really drew my attention to the girls when she kept looking over her shoulder, very much in a manner to see if she was being followed. She did that 2 or 3 times, and then I lost interest in I could see nothing behind her, no reason why she should be such an action, and I just continued on my merry way.
Soon afterwards, out of the sight of any witnesses, the girls are brutally attacked and murdered. The killer strikes at Mary Ann Schmidt first. In a frenzy, he stabs her a total of 14 times. One blow is directly into her heart. Horrified Christine Sharrock tries to escape, running, screaming over the dunes, only to be chased and caught by the killer. He bashes her hard with a blunt object, fracturing her skull. He then stabs her at least 6 times and drags her body back, leaving a trail of blood on the sand and on tufts of grass. It's now that he attempts to have sex with the dead or dying girls. He hacks at Mary Ann's black one-piece bathing suit, pulling it up around her breasts. He grabs at Christine's blood-stained white shorts and thrusts them up into her crotch. Samples of sperm are found, but strangely, a later autopsy will show both girls' hymens are still intact. The children wait. They play in the sand and listen to music on a transistor radio. 1 hour passes, and then 2. Finally, around 5 p.m., with no sign of the girls, the children walk back south along the beach to Cronulla, where they will retrieve their bags where they left them in the rocks and will catch the last train home at 6 p.m. When they arrive home, Christine Sharrock's grandmother next door is told the girls are missing and calls police. The following day, a local man, Peter Smith, is walking in the sandhills with his nephews when one of the boys suddenly spots something.
As I approached it, it looked like a person laying in the sand, sort of half covered, but the person was face down, so it wasn't a normal position to be lying in. So I sort of scratched a bit of sand away from around the head, and I decided it wasn't a mannequin at all, it was in fact a body.
Deeply shocked, confused and shaking, and with the boys peppering him with questions, he rushes to the nearest building, the Wanda Beach Surf Club residence, more than 2 kilometres away, where lifesaver 𝗬𝗘𝗥𝗦 is on duty.
I think I was in the first aid room and he came to the door. He looked very, what can I say, he looked very concerned or upset. I sort of picked that straight away and I knew that there was something wrong. He had 2 little boys with him. And he said, I've discovered a body in the sand dunes further up the beach. And I said, well, we better get the police down here.
Newspaper photographer 𝗬𝗘𝗥𝗦 is one of the first on the scene.
So I sort of just slowly went toward the sandhills, and I came across the 2 feet, which, you know, really, it's sort of, you think, you know, what is it? And it takes a few seconds for you to realise that they're 2 human feet.
But then, suddenly, one officer makes a further shocking discovery.
So I was standing there looking at the grave scene. He said there's 3 feet sticking out of the grave. I said, yeah, it is. So that's when we realised there was 2 people there.
While a search gets underway, detectives link the find to the missing persons report and visit their homes. They speak to the children and Christine's grandmother and make the identification. Over the next few days, the young Schmidt children are interviewed many times. They're taken back to Cronulla, where detectives walk with them as the little ones recount their movements and explain how the girls went off walking into the sandhills. It's then that 7-year-old Wolfgang drops a bombshell, telling them that he saw the girls walking off into the sandhills with the youth he'd seen earlier chasing crabs. He describes the youth as having fair or light brown hair and a smooth face, wearing only light grey trousers and carrying a blue towel. Wolfgang says he still had his knife in the holster, but no spear. He was trying to engage the girls in conversation and was asking them questions. Wolfgang says the girls did not reply, and the youth's face looked angry.
Please tell me your name.
He tells detectives he later saw the youth walking back alone. From Wolfgang's recollections, detectives try to make up an identikit picture of the youth, but this is abandoned as the descriptions become vague and vary too much. Nevertheless, the fair-haired youth becomes the main person of interest to police. As the investigation continues, some puzzling clues emerge. A post-mortem shows undigested cabbage and celery in Christine's stomach. More mysterious is the finding that Christine has a blood alcohol level of 0.015, enough for her to have consumed a glass of beer. Although fermented food can sometimes produce alcohol in the stomach, expert opinion was that this alcohol was taken orally. These Wanda sandhills are a popular recreation area, but they're also isolated and very private. Captain Cook Drive beyond the sandhills over there provides easy access, but it also provides easy escape, especially for a killer with blood-stained clothes. And to this very day, police still believe someone must have seen him escape.
A number of other witnesses came forward. 2 young girls riding horses in the sandhills later told police of a man walking naked between the sandhills. Now, Wanda Beach, especially the sandhills area, was known as a pest area where people often went into the area to sunbake nude or to take part in illicit sexual acts. And so the girls were actually walking into an area that they weren't that familiar with. Other suspects saw people jogging through the hills, saw a man hiding under corrugated iron, obviously perving on some of the young women up there.
Here at Wanda Beach today, there is practically no trace of the tragedy which has shocked all of Sydney. Behind me, a short distance down the beach, a young man and his nephews yesterday stumbled upon the bodies of the 2 teenage girls from Ryde buried in a shallow grave.
We feel that this man is a compulsive killer who must stab and have sexual intercourse with his victim as an overall part of the act. We have been amazed and overwhelmed at the response the public have made. By the continued response of the people, we will be able to put our finger on the man who has committed this crime.
On January 20th, funerals for the two girls are held. Australia is shocked and saddened by the murders, and the funerals are widely reported by all media. The families must carry their grief publicly. After a month, with still no breakthrough in the investigation, the government offers a record reward of £10,000, equal to $20,000. It provokes an avalanche of information.
In the early days of the investigation, every 16-year-old boy in Cronulla with blonde hair was a suspect. And when you think of the 1960s, that's literally thousands of suspects.
One woman who sunbathes regularly near the Wanda Surf Club calls police to report one particular man who harassed women on the beach. She tells detectives how the man sat beside her and propositioned her, using obscene, insulting and degrading language. Lifesaver Barry Ezzy remembers him well.
He was an unusual sort of a character, and he was annoying girls on the beach at that time. And I asked him to leave the beach because of his behaviour. He was annoying girls, and he became a bit of a suspect, I believe. The police were very interested in that bit of information, but to my knowledge he was never ever located, and I never saw him again.
Another problem for investigators is that despite an intensive search, no murder weapon is ever found. Tons of sand from around the murder scene are sifted for clues, and various items are found, including a knife blade with some bloodstains, but police are unable to link it to the crime.
We have received information from possibly 1,000 people. We have interviewed between 500 and 600 people personally and obtained particulars. In this state, as well as in other states, many suspects who could be considered to have committed this crime have been interviewed and their movements checked.
Well, now, what would you consider your most important lead in the investigation so far?
The most important and possibly the outstanding thing is the description of the suspect who was last seen in the company of the girls whilst they were still alive. That is Wolfgang Schmidt, the brother of one of the deceased girls. He describes a lad about 16 years of age whom he saw disappearing in the sand dunes with his sister and the other girl about 1:30 on the fateful day.
Now, even though Wolfgang is a very young boy, he's only 7 years old, you still feel that you could place a fair amount of importance on what he's told you?
Yes. When we first received his testimony, being so young, we were loath to accept it. But we have checked and rechecked his information. During the inquiry, every piece of information we have received has tended to confirm and corroborate his story, and we now feel that he can be relied upon and his testimony is acceptable.
Well, now, sir, we might be able to perhaps move down to the Wanda Beach scene and take up the story there.
Yes, we will.
Now, Detective Inspector Haynes, during your investigations, have you been quite happy with the support the public has given you in coming forward with information?
We have been amazed and overwhelmed at the response the public have made. Every piece of information, however seemingly unimportant, has been investigated. Many suspects as a result of that have been questioned, and we feel that by the continued response of the people, we will be able to put our finger on the man who has committed this crime.
Do you think that there are still some people who may have been here on the beach or who may otherwise be able to help who have not yet come forward?
I feel very definitely. Only as late as yesterday, we have people coming who have previously known something but have not thought it important. By reason of the publicity and the interest that has been created, they have come forward, and we have received much information which will help us to form a pattern of the people who are on the beach and what may have happened on that fateful day.
14 months after the murders, in April 1966, the coroner hands down his finding. By now, police have conducted more than 7,000 interviews. The Wanda murders are rapidly turning into a classic cold case. But no unsolved murder is completely abandoned. In the case of Wanda, police have been looking closely at a number of known psychopathic killers who were in Sydney at the time. The search for the killer of Christine Sharrock and Mary Ann Schmidt at Wanda Beach Sandhills in 1965 became the largest murder investigation in Australian history. The offer of a record reward and the massive response from the public gave detectives thousands of leads, and each had to be followed and investigated. Detective Mick Ashwood says it was a very thorough investigation.
Their investigation practices they utilise in terms of contemporary homicide investigation were outstanding. They didn't spare the resources. Their commitment to it was quite significant. We thought the approach from the force as to how they managed the investigation was one of the best we've seen in our reviews of all the cases.
8 years after Wanda, in 1973, a schizophrenic named Alan Raymond Bassett is convicted of the brutal murder of a woman in Wollongong and sentenced to life in a psychiatric prison. One seasoned investigator, Detective Sergeant 𝗧HIS Johnson, thinks Bassett is the Wanda killer, even though he has no evidence. Bassett gives 𝗧HIS a painting, and 𝗧HIS believes it could hold clues to a number of murder scenes that only the killer would know, including red blood on grass, a broken knife, and what looks like a girl's body and hand. 𝗧HIS Johnson died in 1980 in a pedestrian accident and went to his grave unable to prove that Bassett was the Wanda killer. Bassett has consistently denied any involvement and has now been released into the community. Notorious pedophile 𝗬𝗘𝗥𝗦. Percy was found not guilty by reason of insanity of the mutilation murder of 12-year-old Yvonne Elizabeth Toohey in Victoria in 1969. He would have been 16 at the time of the Wanda murders. Detectives say there's a possibility Percy, who was a keen sailor, was in Sydney to attend some championships with his father at Botany Bay on the edge of the Wanda Sandhills. Even more shocking is the chilling discovery that if he did visit Sydney, Percy would have stayed with his grandmother, who lived less than a kilometre from the Wanda victims' homes in Brush Road Ryde. To reach Botany Bay by rail from the Ryde area would mean travelling on the same train line as the murdered girls. Derek Percy is being held in Victoria's Ararat jail at the Governor's pleasure, another name for an indefinite jail term. He's been repeatedly denied release on parole and is currently Australia's longest-serving prisoner. It's also been reported that exercise books seized from his cell show graphic details of plans for the torture and mutilation of children. Percy has vehemently denied he committed the Wanda murders and also protests that he's innocent of other horrific crimes. There are a number of cases involving children that police say may yet prove to have links to Percy. They say Percy has allegedly admitted to being in St Kilda in Melbourne on the day 8-year-old Linda Stillwell disappeared in August 1968. She's never been found. And detectives working on the murder of 3-year-old Simon Brooke believe they can place Percy in Sydney in May 1968, when the toddler's body was found in bushland. It's also possible that instead of being victims of a psychopathic killer, Christine and Mary Ann died because they stumbled upon some kind of illegal activity in the dunes that day and had to be silenced. The sperm sample taken from the crime scene established a probable blood type, but identifying the killer will require some solid new evidence. Another suspect is a man who's now dead. He was a sexual fiend that the American media dubbed the Beauty Queen Killer.
The continued response of the people, we will be able to put our finger on the man who has committed this crime.
It would be 4 years before a suspect was named. And here it is. In an original police running sheet that we uncovered from 1969, Christopher Bernard Wilder. A young surfie, a convicted sexual deviant, who just happened to be living in Ryde, a few kilometres from Marion and Christine. He was named in 1969, a few years after the Wanda Beach murders, by his wife at the time. She went forward to police because of his violence and sexual ways with her at the time.
Yeah, she realised what he was like as a person, and yeah, I think she was quite brave in coming forward and doing that, yes. He stands out far and above anyone else.
But despite the tip-off that police had been desperate to find, they were flat-footed and take 8 months to properly investigate Wilder, seen in this home movie. Had they acted straight away, they would have discovered that Wilder was on the radar, accused of rape at Manly, even interviewed by local police. But the Wanda detectives didn't pick up on that and missed their chance to interview Wilder, who, it turns out, was a dual Australian-US citizen and had fled to America. The case is marked suspended. Incredibly, the Schmidt family were never told of the lead about Chris Wilder. For 53 years, they've longed for a breakthrough, but this is the first time they've seen Christopher Wilder named as an official suspect.
You are.
Well, what is your reaction to that?
Bullshit. That's crap. What did the cops do?
It took them months to even follow it up.
No, that's even worse. Wife goes to the cops, and the cops do nothing for 8 months. I just can't believe that. That's ridiculous.
Wilder was gone. The #1 suspect had slipped the net of Australian investigators. As you'll see, in America, Wilder was not lying low.
Okay, my name is Chris Wilder. Been in Florida approximately 11 years, originally from Sydney, Australia.
Chris Wilder looking for love in a 1981 dating video in the United States.
Between the ages of approximately 14 and 24 when I left Sydney, I was heavy into surfing. That was my sole gain in life. I want to date. I want to socially meet and enjoy the company of a number of women.
Having skipped Australia in 1969, Florida is now Wilder's playground. During the 1970s, he reinvents himself as quite the man about Miami and is a successful building contractor.
Playboy and the car racing and
in late February, Wilder drove car number 51 in the Miami Grand Prix.
Dana Neighbours and her husband Tom knew Chris Wilder socially during the early 80s. Tom was the local sheriff, and Dana ran a business that made the suits Wilder wore racing his Porsches.
I like sports cars. Done a little bit of motor racing. Haven't done it in recent years, but I keep a couple of what you would call fancy cars at home.
What Dana didn't know was his history of sexual assault in Australia and a growing list of sex crimes in Florida he kept well hidden. Now, these are documents from the FBI about his sexual criminal record in the 1970s.
Okay, so we've got one in 71, disorderly conduct, for which he was fined. Then we have one in 76, again in Florida, sexual battery. So he's upping the ante at this point. This is now sexual violent behaviour. And then in 80, we've got West Palm Beach, again, sexual battery with physical force.
For that sexual battery charge, Wilder was on a 5-year probation, court-ordered to see a therapist and strictly monitored. But somehow, he convinces a US judge to grant him a travel permit to Australia. He touches down in Sydney on December 6, 1982. The very next day, Wilder drives to Manly Beach, but surfing and swimming are not on his mind.
It was a beautiful summer's day, and my father dropped me off down at the Corso.
16-year-old Fiona Parsons is arriving at her part-time job. You'd stepped out of Dad's car on the way to work and he's targeted you straight away.
Straight away. Straight away. He would have seen me get out of the car. Tall. Very tall to me. He had jewellery on. He had an accent. He was, fancy.
He flatters Fiona, telling her how attractive she is. He wants her to model.
He goes, I'm really interested in you. I think you have the look. And I guess I had great big Bambi eyes and thought, wow, this is fantastic. And he offered me, right then and there, $100 to come and work for him. Fancy camera equipment. We went over to the beachfront and he wanted to take some photos of me. And he got very forceful in his tone. I couldn't get away from him from that point. I was stuck. Got in the car. How did I get in the car? I was in not a good situation. Go up to other girls and introduce him to the other girls. But at this point, I don't think I was actually talking. I was pretty much under his spell, completely manipulated.
You're recruiting for him?
Yeah. Yes. I went up to a particular girl I remember. She was so beautiful. Anyway, I remember walking up to her and saying to her that I'm a model and I work for this man and he wants to take photos of you. She went with him and she came back in tears and he had asked her to take her top off, which I believe she did. And I left and I went looking for him. And it's funny, I think, what did I do that for? I was away from him.
That was your chance to get away from him.
It was my chance to get away,
But you went looking for him?
I went looking for him. And then I realised he had actually left and I felt abandoned. I felt like I was, that he'd left me, that I wasn't good enough, I guess.
Fiona reports the whole incident to police. There's an alert out. But Wilder returns to Manly Beach just 3 weeks later. He uses the same routine to lure 2 15-year-old girls into his rental car. The Jekyll and Hyde in Wilder reappears. He drives them around the northern beaches. Then to his King's Cross hotel room, the girls are blindfolded. For some time, they're assaulted. However, police weren't far behind. They were looking for his rental car, astutely identified by the girls' friends at the beach. When police swoop on the hotel, Wilder had released the girls and is alone.
Christopher Wilder was arrested and charged with kidnapping and sexually assaulting 2 15-year-old girls.
They were so innocent, those girls. They were just so innocent. as I was. I was just very lucky that, nothing happened to me.
Wilder is finally before a court. But to everyone's surprise, at his committal hearing on assault and kidnapping charges, the judge grants him bail.
At first, Wilder's passports were confiscated, but then in January 1983, the terms of bail were changed and Wilder was allowed to leave Australia.
Wilder has his ticket to freedom. His passport returned, he flew straight back to the United States. Few could have known that Wilder's sociopathic obsession with young women was about to become uncontrollable.
This is a new change in myself, hopefully. I'd like to social date more so. I have what I call a need to meet and socialize on a more wider basis than I have been doing.
Whoever that Christopher Wilder was in the dating video, the one that now returns to America is on a mission to feed his desires. Again, 2 young girls are in his sights. Not far from his home at Boynton Beach in Florida. They're sisters, just 10 and 12 years old.
Well, 2 young girls were just walking down the sidewalk, and a man driving a white El Camino pulled a gun on them, opened the door, ordered them into the car, and he drove them into the western county area, which was very desolate. Found a deserted dirt road and laid out a tarpaulin and brutalized the girls for a considerable amount of time.
Despite their horrific ordeal, the young girls survived. But it wouldn't be until much later, well after Wilder's name made headline news, that he was identified as the sisters' attacker. And you're of no doubt that that was Chris Wilder responsible?
I have no doubt. His blood type came back as matching, and I put his photo in a photographic lineup with other suspects, and both of the girls went immediately to him.
It was him. It was Wilder.
No doubt.
It certainly matches almost identically to what he did in Australia.
Did in Australia, yeah, which I had...
2 girls from a beach, twice.
Yes, he was an animal.
He is Christopher Wilder, a man the FBI calls extremely active and very dangerous.
Tom Neighbours now finds himself in a predicament. He's the sheriff assigned to investigate the case, but he and his wife Dana are in shock to learn their friend Chris Wilder is the monster who attacked the girls.
I called her and I said, look, the FBI's looking for Chris Wilder. I'm on my way to a meeting. I said, go get your gun. Keep it handy.
He said, if Chris comes to the front door, shoot him.
While police searched for Wilder, only he knew his motives. The clock was ticking. The trial in Australia was imminent. But there was no way Wilder was coming home to face justice. He packs up and flees his Florida home.
I have the impression that he knew his days were numbered.
John Hanlon is the lead FBI investigator heading up the manhunt. He's on Wilder's tail.
Everywhere he goes, somebody dies.
Wilder is on the run. He heads north on open highways through the wild Everglades toward the state border.
I was a 19-year-old sophomore at Florida State University. He came up to me in the store and asked me if I was interested in being a model, and I said no. I had a boyfriend who wouldn't like that very much, and I didn't shave my legs. I was a surfer and wasn't really interested in modeling.
Linda Grober has never told her story publicly.
And he had followed me out to my car, so that's when things kind of unfolded, and that's when I got nervous.
And how would you describe who that person was in that moment?
Possessed, driven, focused, certainly. I think he sucker punched me in the solar plex, and I woke up and was in his car. And I get put into the trunk of the car, which was my sanctuary, quite frankly, for a long time. So he put me in the trunk of the car. We spent the next 10 hours, 12 hours driving around. It got cold, it was raining. He played these songs over and over from the Eurythmics. I spent a lot of time waiting for somebody to come get me, you know, waiting for Superman or God or whoever. I struggled initially with them, and then I was a very compliant person until I wasn't.
Wilder eventually pulls into a motel and smuggles Linda into the room inside a sleeping bag. They've crossed from Florida into Georgia.
I know I'm in a room with brick walls, which didn't work in my favor.
With him?
They're not good things. Yeah. He was an electrician, so he knew how to use electricity. And that was kind of the worst of it. And so he was electrocuting me. He had tied me up to an electrical outlet in both my pinkies and my toes, and he had superglued my eyes shut.
Wilder was obsessed with the 80s TV drama Dallas. He also liked dance and aerobic shows on TV. In between watching these in the motel room, he would torture Linda.
I actually had a tiny, tiny bit of a slit in one of my eyes that I could see. I was standing and he was looking over here at the television. He was on the bed, the television was over there. I was standing here, the wall was right here, and the door. He wasn't really paying attention to me at all, and I noticed that the electrical outlet to my electrical device was plugged in right there. So I yanked it out of the wall and threw it at him and went for what was like, you know, they have the little latch in the door. I didn't make it. So then he was on me, and then we fought for who knows how long. And then he hit me over the head with a blow dryer. And, you know, head injuries bleed a lot. And so in that moment, I just thought, okay, just pretend like he killed you.
Gary, this is going to be your first real crisis.
And I just laid back, and he was, you know, on top of me. And I just pretended that he'd actually knocked me out. And then I waited a second and just jabbed my fingers in his eyes and ran to the bathroom. Screamed for a minute, shut the door, and then pretended like I was dead.
Linda Grober is fighting for her life.
I just sat in the bathtub and waited. I thought that he was gonna try to get in, or, you know, shoot through the door.
Tortured, raped. She's broken free from Chris Wilder and barricaded herself in the motel bathroom.
I opened up the door.
Suella, where have you been?
I thought, shit, this is it. He's gonna be standing there with a gun or a knife, and I'm done. I'm either gonna die or I'm gonna get out.
She gathers one last burst of strength to break free.
I ran out, and he was gone.
Just disappeared.
Disappeared.
Linda stumbles outside to get help. Badly wounded, but alive.
We flew up there, we got up there at night, and she was still in the hospital. We showed her the photo lineup, she didn't bat an eye. Identified the guy right off the bat. That gave us the kidnapping case, that gave us what we really needed, you know, to jump in, you know, full force.
We were following him. He was using business credit cards for motels and meals and gas and whatnot. So we were following him, but there was always a delay of an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, and so we were always just behind him, but we could see that he was heading west.
They came so close to getting him so many times, and then he would snatch someone else.
We needed to catch this guy, because you knew as long as he's out there, people are dying in horrible, horrible fashion. And the sooner you get him, you're going to save somebody's life.
Linda Grover has survived, but 4 other women are dead or missing, presumed dead.
And this was happening quickly. Chris Wilder was moving fast.
Boom, boom, boom. Each day he was taking another victim.
Rosario Gonzalez, Colleen Osborne, Terry Wade Ferguson, and Beth Kenyon, who briefly dated Wilder. All beautiful young women and mostly aspiring models, which would lead Wilder to be dubbed the Beauty Queen Killer. So it is when Wilder turns up almost 4,000 kilometres away on the other side of the country in Las Vegas. He's randomly photographed, an anonymous face in the crowd at a beauty pageant. But he's really scouting his next victim, 17-year-old Michelle Kaufman, a young catwalk model who disappears that day and turns up dead in neighbouring California.
The last apparent abduction was at a Las Vegas shopping centre 4 days ago. 17-year-old Michelle Kaufman, who disappeared after entering a local beauty contest.
Oh, Lord, he's sitting there. Remember, he's got his hands crossed. I mean, he's a very casual guy, you know.
This is in the middle of his killing spree across America.
And the thing that drives you nuts is the word went out that the guy is kidnapping girls at major shopping malls where there's modeling shows.
The FBI says Wilder uses his photographic skills to attract female victims.
The common characteristic is they're young, they are attractive, and most of them have an interest in modeling and those type careers.
There he is, sitting there calm as a cucumber.
Calm, even though, as the FBI later learned, by now he's murdered 7 young women in his cross-country killing spree. Many lured from shopping malls, convinced they'd find fame with Wilder posing as a fashion photographer. It's early April 1984, and just when Wilder should have been in Sydney to face trial,
Christopher Bernard Wilder. Christopher Wilder.
He's the 39-year-old race car driver and photographer.
His mugshot is being plastered all over US news bulletins.
We are looking for Wilder as a prime fugitive and probably at this period of time considered to be one of the most wanted fugitives for the FBI.
He's now the prime suspect in a string of abductions and at least 1 murder.
Detectives believe Wilder is heading for Canada.
The problem you have is he knows where he's going and you don't. And you need a break.
The lucky break is coming. Wilder is moving fast and becoming erratic. He's back on the East Coast in New York State, where Sheriff Ron Spike gets a call from a local truck driver.
All of a sudden he saw this young girl partly clothed along the side of the road, not walking steadily, but sort of a stagger. And he pulled up and stopped, and she pled for his help. Help me, help me, she said. I've been stabbed.
Dawnette Wilt had been kidnapped and held captive by Wilder for 2 days. Stabbed and suffocated, Dawnette was dumped in these woods, barely alive.
She had taken part of her clothes, and she had tied them around her chest, trying to stop the blood from coming out of her chest wounds. She had 2 chest wounds.
Dawnette has saved her own life, but what she reveals shocks police. Wilder had an accomplice in the car, 16-year-old Tina Marie Rosico, who'd gone missing from a mall in California a week earlier.
With her, it's almost like the Stockholm Syndrome is kind of what you think of, in that she had been manipulated mentally to be his servant, if you will.
And like Fiona Parsons back in Manly, Tina was under Wilder's control and helped him lure other young women like Dawnette, who somehow found strength to stagger clear of the woods just before Wilder returned.
He left her for dead. He came back to the car. Tina Marie said he got in, and then they drove for probably 10 minutes or so, and he decided to turn the car around and go back. And he went down into the woods, and she wasn't there. When he couldn't find her, when he come back to the car, Tina said that he was really in a panic. She's gone, and he knew that he could be in trouble.
This adds to his frenzy of hitting the road again.
I believe so.
Later that day, Wilder, with 𝗬𝗘𝗥𝗦 at his side, claims his last murder victim, 33-year-old Beth Dodge, in her gold Pontiac Firebird. Wilder didn't want her, he wanted her car. He's on a supercharged dash for the Canadian border. But in one last curious twist, he spares the life of his accomplice, Tina Marie.
Just yesterday morning, Wilder dropped kidnapped victim Tina Marie 𝗬𝗘𝗦 at Boston's Logan Airport. 𝗬𝗘𝗦 flew to California, where she told police Wilder told her to go home, that he did not want her to see him die.
He told her that morning, I'm gonna send you home because I don't want you with me when this is over.
The Australian-born and bred Christopher Wilder is now America's most wanted man. And he's out of control. On the run for a month, a killing spree covering 12,000 kilometres. He's abducted and raped at least 13 women. 9 are dead or missing. But the law is about to finally catch up with Chris Wilder.
He went north then towards Canada. And he was in a little town called Colebrook, up near the Canadian border, when 2 New Hampshire troopers saw this guy over by the gas station getting gas and was acting kind of hinky, so they went over there and approached him. And he made a dash to get back in the car to get his gun out of the briefcase. And in the tussle where they were trying to grab a hold of him there, he come out with a gun, and he actually fired off 2 shots. And one shot went through Wilder and then into the body of one of the troopers. And then the second shot was a direct shot into, Wilder shot himself right in the heart. And it killed him right there and then.
State police say they confronted Wilder at a gas station and that he shot himself.
But a nagging question is unresolved. Was it suicide or was it accidental?
He turned that gun on himself and did himself in right there. There's no doubt that if he could have done away with those 2 officers, he would have. So he took the position, I'm going to kill myself.
In the end, Chris Wilder, the Sydney-born serial killer, would take his own life rather than risk capture. He's officially listed as killing 9 young women. But what police here and America agree on is that the true tally of his victims, including those he raped and let free, will never be truly known.
One of the original investigators on the case, retired Detective Sergeant Barry Reynolds, also believes someone in the dunes that day saw something, but still hasn't come forward.
I think there is somebody still alive today that could provide an end to the mystery if they were prepared to come forward and tell the authorities what their thoughts are.
Detectives believe they will eventually find out who killed Mary Ann and Christine. But all they can say officially at the moment is that they're seeking 4 persons of interest and that they have 2 firm suspects. For Elizabeth Schmidt, there is no closure, no explanation as to why her beloved daughter Mary Ann had to die.
If I tell you, I'm not a churchgoer, okay? But walking down the street and pray, that happened a lot. Going shopping, the tears running and praying. I still got the question why. You know, I said it at that time. So I find on each corner girls who wait for it. Why has to be the ones who say no? And I cope it. That's my opinion. Still got the questions why. If it would help, if somebody would know anything, any little bit, I would like that. At least after 40 years, we might come to the end.
And with him, Christ, we close it. At least for the rest of the family, they can get closure.
It was your mother's one wish.
It was.
And she never had that fulfilled?
No. No, she just wanted to understand why.